Okay, welcome back now to week 7 of Webmastering, MISM 4331. In week 7, it's a fairly light week, but it's a very important week for everything that you'll be doing this week. I want you to participate in 2 forums this week as normal. You have the peer support forum, and then you have a research forum. And this research forum down here may be one of the most important that we've done, even through web design and webmastering both, only because that it's going to cover the full spectrum of everything from what we call front-end design and back-end design or development, either one, front and back-end development. When we talk about front end, we're talking about the aspects of the website that the user sees and interacts with. The back end is the part of the database that the user never sees, but yet surely they're aware that there is such a thing as the back end of a website. I'll give you an example here. Let's suppose that a user is frequently using Amazon, as I do, too much probably. But when I go to Amazon, they always show me the things that I last searched for, things that are favorites of mine, and they show me all of my orders that I've made. And if I've got a complaint about an order, then I can send them a message and all like this. Well, how does that happen? How does just a web interface, the front end part of the website, how does it seem to know so much about me? Now, by now, you know what is involved in an HTML page. You know what's in that front end code that is facing the user. But there's not anything in there in a web page that we've learned about where that you can just click on something and it will tell you everything that you've ever browsed looking for. Well, it's because there is a back end to our websites, and that's the side, the end of development that connects with databases and servers. And that's where we run special scripts that we don't want the public to see. Let me give you an example of that. I built a website for a company once that they were selling their products online. And so we had to build a database that would hold the inventory of that company, as well as the information about its customers. And then we had to find a way to make all of that information available in an online catalog, which all of that's easy to do with PHP. And that's probably still the most popular scripting language that you can use for back-end work is just PHP. And I encourage you to take a look at it. Now, the back end contained some other information. It contained information that had to do with connecting the shopping cart that we had created to that company's bank, to their bank. And because the money had to flow from the sales of products that were being processed through credit cards, and then all of that had to be interfaced with the bank's system. Now, the bank doesn't want to give me or anybody else access to how that's done. They just tell us that you have to do this, this, and this, and okay, then it can all happen. But we don't see on the bank side everything that's happening beyond it. It's encapsulated, it's hidden. And the same way with the front end of a website, our front end users never really see the back end because it's hidden, and it's hidden on purpose. And the reason for this is you've been working some with JavaScript code, and you know that if you open your HTML page and go inside and look, there's a link up there at the top with your link element where you can click and actually look at the JavaScript code from inside of the web page just by doing the view page source. You can also read some of the JavaScript that's there. Well, what if we had to embed a person's or a company's bank account numbers and passwords? If we embedded that in the side of our website where the users could get to it, then everybody could be able to get everybody else's bank account information. And that's why we have to have back-end scripting. There has to be a place and a method by which we put that kind of information that absolutely must be kept private from all the hackers in the world and all the front-end users of the world. We've got to tuck that stuff away in such a way that it can't be accessed. And there's some pretty good ways of doing that, but it all involves working with the back end. Now, if you are really lucky in life, as it says down here in my research forum question, if you get really lucky in life and if you were going to pursue web development as a profession, then if you wanted to do what we call full stack programming, which is where that you build the front end and you build the back end, and that's pretty much what I do. And it's what I did. I'm not doing it anymore. But that's what I did. I built front ends, I built back ends, I worked with PHP and made all this stuff happen so that people could buy online and that money could go to the bank. But if you decide to be a programmer and you go to work for some company, you might be very lucky, and maybe there they have front-end developers and back-end developers, and then you get to specialize in one or the other. And if you want to make yourself marketable to where that you can be hired and have more aspects to your resume than just a front-end developer, then you might want to develop some back-end skills, and that way you it makes yourself more marketable in this field of web design. And that's what this discussion is about this week. It's about back-end development and databases, but it's also about understanding the difference between front-end use and back-end use and how you can go about learning and being trained on this stuff. And so I want you to spend a good amount of time searching this and trying to understand. You must understand the difference between what we call front end or the server-side scripting. Server-side scripting is for the back end, where that all of the code that we're writing, like JavaScript, PHP, or whatever else that we're doing, all of that's running on the server so that the user can't see it. So we have server-side scripting, but then we also have browser-based scripting that's running on the user's local computer. And you must understand the difference between the scripting codes like JavaScript that we can let run in the front end without any worry about giving away bank account information. And then also how could we interface with somebody's bank account and do that on the back end. And again, it's very straightforward how to do that if you learn to use PHP, which unfortunately is way beyond the scope of this class. So spend some time looking at that this week and give yourself a good foundation of knowledge, looking into things like PHP and SQL and MySQL databases, and just understand the difference between front end and back end. Now, for a textbook readings, it says Chapter 1 and Chapter 9, and really Chapter 1 only contains page 12, and Chapter 9 only contains the information on pages 179 through 190. And then there's a weekly quiz, of course, that covers that. And then next week, all that we'll be doing is just wrapping up the course with the final exam, and you'll want to review this week all of those previous weekly quizzes since midterm. We don't go back to week 1, so just go back to midterm and review all of those quizzes, and that'll make you ready for the final exam. Now for the coding assignment, what I'm going to do is have you follow along a teacher who's better, more energetic and younger than I am, and more up to date with the latest changes in coding, and that is with Kevin Cook. And you see his website here, that you see his YouTube channel, Web Dev Simplified. But this is a guy named Kevin Cook. This guy is the best that I have found on HTML and JavaScript. Very much the best. He's good on CSS too, but he's got a lot of stuff in here. He's got some online courses you could take. But I think you'll like Kevin. And he has this one video in here that's called HTML Forms in 25 minutes. And what you'll do is just do what he does in this video. And that will give you the one thing that we did not do, maybe a couple of things, that we did not do in web design. We didn't get to work on tables, but tables are hardly ever used unless you learn how to work with PHP. Hardly anybody uses tables anymore, but everybody uses forms. And so I want you to get some hands-on work with creating an HTML form. And so you'll watch this video. It's about 25 minutes long, and he talks fast, and you'll have to probably stop it a few times. But I want you to create the code that he creates, and you'll be creating 2 files in order to do that. You have the index.html and the results.html file. And you'll create those 2 and then create a web form, and then learn to see how a web form goes about at least taking the information that's put into a user form and then have that moved into maybe something like a database. He doesn't get into that. He doesn't get into how we interface with the database, but the results HTML page is his way of putting that information that's in a form, putting it somewhere. And so this is a really, really good video, and I couldn't do it better than he does it here. So I'm going to sort of pass you off, since you're about to quit being one of my students. And I want to pass you off to the pros. And I want you to meet 2 pros here on YouTube. Number 1 of all of them is Web Dev Simplified with Kevin Cook. And the other is Kevin Powell. And this guy is probably the best in the world on CSS. He is really good. He can just make your websites dance all over the screen if you want to. So these 2 guys, Kevin Powell and Kevin Cook, spend a little time becoming familiar with them. And I feel like then that I have passed you off into good hands for whenever you're needing to know something about HTML or JavaScript or CSS in the future. Okay, that's it, and I hope you have a wonderful experience with this week. I know you'll enjoy the forms and seeing how the forms actually work. And but the research and the discussions that you do on back-end development will be very important for you to understand. Even if you don't want to make it a career, you need to understand what's going on there. So God bless, and best wishes to all of you. Stay healthy and stay away from sick people.